don't have any willpower to do anything anymore. How many years I've been wanting and dealing with all these frustrations. I was thinking, what am I doing this for? Do I feel any better anymore? No. Do I get any enjoyment from working out anymore? No. You know, when I was 16, 17, 18, I had that passion, you know? I'm so beaten down and defeated by fucking life. That drive that I once had, that's gone now.
The time was 6:05 p.m. on the 12th of August 2021. Jake Davison and his mother Maxine were arguing. On the phone with Maxine was her boyfriend Darren. 3 minutes later, Darren hears gunfire and nothing. What happened that night was something that no one in the town of Plymouth would ever expect. So what events caused the incel that committed the worst mass shooting in the United Kingdom in over 10 years?
You know, I try, and I always keep trying. But it's like, I'm at the point now where it's like, why do I even bother? Like, for what?
Jake Davison was born on the 21st of August 1998. But at a young age, Jake's parents would split up, which meant that Jake would grow up around his mother, Maxine, seeing his father occasionally. Jake's older siblings would move out when they were old enough, which meant he would be mainly raised by his mother. At a young age, Jake seemed to develop anger issues and had many learning difficulties. It was due to these difficulties that Jake would get assessed, and it was found that he was diagnosed with autism. As a result of this, Maxine sent Jake to Mount Tama, which is a public funded school for children with special needs and learning difficulties. However, life was not easy for Maxine, as the pair would live in council housing in Plymouth and the two would argue a lot. This also meant that Jake did not grow up as much with his dad. Throughout his schooling, he was known as being very socially awkward and quiet. This was mainly due to his autism.
I never used to see him with friends. I didn't ever really see him with anyone else. He was more like a gamer, you know, like he was socially awkward for sure.
And although Jake found it difficult to socialize, he found comfort on the internet, as he frequently visited online forums and played video games. But as Jake got older, it was evident that flaws in his character began to develop. His frequent use of the internet meant that Jake developed a very negative outlook on life. Therefore, one of Jake's biggest frustrations was not being able to find a girlfriend. The issue wasn't that he couldn't get a woman, the issue was the mental barriers he placed on his own mind.
And I did have girls into me. I had girls into me. I had them into me. But fucking stupid, ridiculous mental barriers like for me a lot of the reason I didn't was because I was fat as fuck.
He was like at that age where he was probably sexually frustrated. And I remember he had a conversation with his mum going, "You've got a man, you're always in a relationship, how come I can't get a girlfriend for myself?" I even said to his mum, "Do you want me to take him down the street and get him like shagged with a prostitute?"
However, Jake's issues largely flew under the radar, and in June of 2017, he would apply for a firearms license to own a shotgun due to his large fascination of guns. And in 2018, at the age of 19, his application to purchase a gun was approved, meaning he would legally be allowed to own a firearm as he bought a pump-action shotgun. He was influenced to buy a shotgun by his uncle that thought maybe a gun would help him feel more confident, since Jake was a quiet kid. But purchasing this shotgun would have a huge negative backlash later on. Therefore, as Jake grew older, he began to develop his own ideologies on life. He would often have arguments with his mother due to conflicting beliefs.
People like me have had nobody but themselves. And people who are incels and all this, I don't clarify myself as an incel, but you know, people like similar to me, they've had nothing but themselves. And then they've socially had it tough.
And after Jake turned 18, his mum was no longer allowed government benefits, which meant he had to get a job as a scaffolder to assist with the financial side of things. It was during this period where he began to use online forums a lot more frequently. Jake would be a part of many different incel forums, incel meaning involuntary celibate, but he would also believe in an online ideology known as the black pill.
Tier scale of Chad, Normie and Sub 5. This is what I think we should use in place of the 1 to 10 scale. It makes so much more sense to me, and it's so easy to identify which category you fall in, dependent on the criteria and the treatment you get from other people. I've said this so many times. The only difference between boyfriend and friend is physical attraction. I'll say that again. The only difference between boyfriend and friend is physical attraction. And in fact, anything after 2 or 3 failed approaches will lead to you being labelled as nothing else but that one creep who hits on every girl. You don't want to end up in this place. You don't want to end up like him. Normie tier, our high 4s to low 6s, they can expect a success rate of anywhere between 1 in 25 on the low end and 1 to 100 on the high end. I know most girls won't date me. They just don't find me that attractive. But I also know there will always be a small minority of girls out there who finds me attractive.
With blue pill people being those who accept the mainstream narrative, conforming to what they've been told with no question. People who believe in the red pill ideology believe in rejecting societal norms and questioning established beliefs, where they argue with women about gender roles, often linked to other movements such as men going their own way or pickup artists. Finally, the black pill is associated with a pessimistic worldview, with beliefs of hopelessness and nothing being in their control.
These days, not having sex for 6 months or a year for a lot of fucking guys is very, very common. Not getting one compliment from a person, extremely common. Why do you think sexual assaults and all these things keep rising and women talk about it? Because the reality is that women don't need men no more, and they certainly don't want and don't need average men.
The black pill accepts the worldview of the red pill, but it is taken one step further, rejecting learning pickup game to get women, believing that looks are all that matters, and if you weren't chosen in the genetic lottery, it's over for you. However, they believe that women choose sexual partners only based on physical features, and although some choose to improve, many believe it's all pointless. Therefore, black pillars think they have only 2 options: accept their fate as an incel or try to change society to their benefit, usually done through acts of violence. And in the case of Jake Davison, that's exactly what happened.
And most women, a lot of women are very simple-minded and they ain't all that bright. You know, social media and thinking they're princesses and all this, they grow up. A lot of women are quite simple-minded. The only thing they understand is that. You know, you talk about intelligence, smartness, you know, women don't give a fuck about none of that unless you got that.
He would go on subreddits such as r/virgin, r/incelexit, r/rape-me, r/depression, and r/testosterone. And although it can be seen that Jake had a very nihilistic outlook on life, hobbies like working out and going to the gym brought the only fulfillment to his life, which, contrary to most black pillars' beliefs, did bring him some belief that he could turn his life around, even if he missed opportunities with women in his past. But amidst all this, one thing was clear: Jake's mental state was only getting worse. Due to this, his family tried to get him help for his mental health through public health systems like the NHS, but the wait to see a therapist or psychiatrist was way too long. Therefore, no matter how much his mum sought help, even going to the police to help her son, assistance was never brought to him. But in 2020, things would start going downhill for Jake, as in September of that year, Jake would leave his house to go for a walk because he just had a verbal argument with his mother. On the walk, Jake walked past a skate park, and there stood a group of skaters, with one of them calling him a fat c*** unprovoked. However, he would not be happy with this remark made by the group, walking up to them and assaulting the 16-year-old as well as some of the friends that called him fat. Jake was later identified as the man who assaulted the group. Therefore, due to this incident, Jake had his gun revoked because of his violent history.
He gripped her by the throat a couple of times. You know what I mean? It's like we grab her by the wrist sometimes, and the boy's got big hands on him. He's got hands like shovels. You know what I mean? Like twice the size of my hands. You know what I mean? And sometimes I would see bruises on Maxine, and I knew she was getting hurt by him.
He appealed his court case after completing the Pathfinder scheme, and he requested the return of his shotgun. And surprisingly, the officer returned the gun to him. And it turned out the officer who took the weapon and returned it had never seen the skate park assault incident. However, the fact that Jake had his shotgun returned to him by the officer and the fact that the footage never had been reviewed would show costly, as 1 month after his shotgun would be returned, Jake would commit one of the most heinous acts in recent British history.
It's like in the Terminator, right? You know, fate is nothing. You know, the whole premise of the Terminator movies is that, you know, everything's rigged against you. There's no hope for humanity. You know, we're on the brink of extinction. You know, these machines are unstoppable, killing machines that can't be beaten, can't be outsmarted. But yet, humanity still tries to fight to the end. And I know it's a movie, but it's, you know, I like to think sometimes, you know, I'm a Terminator or something. And
August the 12th, 2021. On the day of the shooting, Jake can be seen entering his home after work, as he spends 2 hours on the computer after work. 6:05 p.m. Jake and his mother Maxine were arguing. During the altercation, Maxine was on the phone to her boyfriend Darren. 6:08 p.m. Darren hears a shotgun going off, and at this moment, Jake has killed his mother. 6:09 p.m. Following this, Jake leaves the house. He then shoots and kills 43-year-old Lee Martin and his 3-year-old daughter Sophie, who were going for a walk up the street. 6:10 p.m. A call had gone on the police radio as they were notified that a shooting happened, but they didn't suspect a shooting because it doesn't happen in that area. 6:11 p.m. Jake shoots and kills 59-year-old Stephen Washington. 6:13 p.m. Jake shoots and kills 66-year-old Kate Shepherd outside some local shops. After this violent incident, police officers were called to the scene. The police officer on the scene saw Jake from a distance. Trying to de-escalate the situation, the police officer quietly approached Davison. Getting within 20 meters of the murderer, as he approached, Jake put the shotgun under his chin and pulled the trigger. Being overly exposed to the internet is what drove Jake off a cliff. Pair that with the fact that he owned a shotgun, the incel forums he would frequent, the fact he had no friends, the fact he was a social outcast, and the fact he had autism. All of this combined was only a recipe for disaster. And through it all, blinded by rage and a hatred for women, Jake couldn't see that his mother was only trying to help him all along.